My name is Adri Silva, and I grew up homeschooled by gymnastics business owners until the 10th grade, where I spent most of my exploratory education studying insects and amphibians in the backyard or trying to cure my insatiable desire to be in the air. Though I've participated in service throughout my life, my involvement remained overshadowed by my athletic and academic pursuits for the longest time. My community service was more of a secondary endeavor, predominantly channeled through groups I belonged to, such as my cheerleading team and school clubs. Little did I know that this undercurrent of community engagement held the potential to blossom into a profound calling until I started exploring my Hispanic heritage in high school and developing a sense of purpose through my service. In 2018, I flew internationally for the first time. I stayed for 5 weeks with my grandparents in Valle de los Chillos, a beautiful valley southeast of Quito, Ecuador, surrounded by the Andes Mountains. Besides sightseeing and participating in a youth group at my grandparents' church, I volunteered at Agua Viva, an after-school program for educational enrichment for socioeconomically disadvantaged children. I still did not speak the language very well at the time, so the leaders of the organization assigned me to teach, you guessed it, gymnastics classes. Despite my inability to verbally communicate with the children, they eagerly copied my stretches and movements. Their laughter, hugs, and showers of "Muchas gracias, profe," at the end of each class were enough to assure me that we'd connected. On the week of my departure, a young girl shyly walked up to me and offered me one of her rubber bracelets. "Recuérdame," she repeated. "Remember me." On my flight home, I could not stop looking at her bracelet. As much as I found activities involving stunting and biology to be my first passions, I returned to the U.S. with a growing sense of mission to serve people like the children and families I work with at Agua Viva. I began taking my Spanish language acquisition seriously, and by the end of high school, I was fluent enough to share my first conversation with my grandfather in his native tongue. I had learned that he had immigrated from Peru to the United States just before my father was born, and then he had immigrated again to Mexico for my father's early childhood because he was denied work in the US despite having the credentials as a surgeon, simply because he had a foreign education. Listening to his testimony revealed the dissonance between my Latina heritage and the undeniable privileges I hold as a white U.S. citizen. Despite sharing a cultural background, my experience is greatly contrasted with his. This tension in my own identity ignited a passion for social justice that once again superseded any other, leading me to come to Sewanee and pursue a major in politics to address the inequalities embedded in the political and legal systems that began revealing themselves to me through my own experiences and through the experiences of those around me. In my sophomore year in college, I learned about the opportunity to work at the Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands through the Canale internship program. I did not hesitate to apply. Through the program, I got to translate for Spanish-speaking clients and pursue legal justice for underrepresented communities. The experience was amazing, though I loved the direct interactions with people the most. When I studied abroad in the fall semester of my junior year, I continued my service work in Quito at an organization called Ayuda para la Autoayuda, in which I taught math, literature, and English as a second language to elementary school children. My experience provided me with a smooth transition back to Sewanee as I prepared to shift to my new Canale leadership role at Zeal for Education and Language, a small, young nonprofit organization in which I've been teaching adult English language learners and building capacity through nonprofit management ever since. With my increasing experience in immigration-related issues, I ended up conducting community-based participatory research on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border with New Mexico State University and funded by a National Science Foundation grant, where I also found myself volunteering weekly to welcome new asylum seekers upon their entry to the United States at Border Servant Corps in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I still find an immense fascination with the creatures around me, and I still tumble wherever I can. But service, to me, has evolved from a subtle thread woven into my life to the central and profound calling that shapes my purpose and fuels my passion for a career in public service and immigration. I learned that service is much more than just lending a helping hand. It's about building connections with the community, facilitating spaces in which marginalized voices can be listened to, and empowering individuals to create meaningful change through my supportive leadership style. It's about recognizing my privilege and leveraging it to dismantle barriers. It's about facilitating the value of inquiry, embracing diversity, and striving for equity. For me, service has evolved from a fraction of my life to the very essence of the path I'm creating for myself.